Hi, I'm Mike Brewer, pastor of the Blue Ash Presbyterian Church. Like so many congregations in this current health crisis, we have canceled our worship services for a while, so we're looking for ways to keep in touch with each other, including some online visits with one another. Thus, this is the first of Mike's midweek messages. We will post these each Wednesday on YouTube, and hope that you will come for a visit and spend a few minutes and share this with others if you find it helpful. Today happens to be St. Patrick's Day. A lot of people are surprised to discover that Patrick was not in fact an Irishman. He was born in England, and as a 16-year-old boy he was captured by Irish pirates, carried off to the Emerald Isle, and sold into slavery there. For the next several years, Patrick, the slave, spent his time minding the sheep for his master. This was a sparsely populated land, and taking care of the sheep meant that Patrick went for weeks and sometimes months without any human contact whatsoever. The 16-year-old who was carried into slavery was not a particularly devout young man, but in the course of all that time spent by himself, Patrick's Christian faith awakened. He discovered the power of prayer and the living presence of God in all circumstances, and it is safe to say that those 6 years in slavery made Patrick the deeply devout Christian that he was for the rest of his life. Most of us are going to be having more time alone on our hands than we are accustomed to, what with so many places closing down and some folks having been sent home from their jobs for a while, and other people practicing self-isolation for their own good and for the public good. Let me make a couple of modest suggestions for us to consider during these times of uncertainty and change. First, the notion that alone time is not necessarily loneliness. We could spend more of this time consciously with God. We could spend more time in prayer for ourselves and for others. There are certainly lots of folks right now who stand in need of our prayers, folks who are currently jobless because of this crisis, folks who have suffered from the economic downturn, medical professionals who are working to deal with this crisis, national and local leaders who are trying to make the best of a bad situation. So I hope you will spend some more time in prayer than perhaps is your usual custom. Personally, I like to pray the Psalms, to find a psalm and read it aloud slowly, ponder it, maybe read it again, and see what that psalm has to say to me from God, and see what that psalm might be prompting me to say to God in turn. So maybe a little more time in prayer, but also a reminder that loneliness is the first cousin of solitude, and for many people, the enforced isolation of these next few weeks or maybe months will be a very lonely time for them. Folks who cannot get out and visit, folks who cannot be with the groups they would normally join. And so let me encourage you to pick up the phone and make it a habit to get in touch with some folks who may be feeling very isolated and very alone right now. If you are able, you could offer to pick up prescriptions or groceries and drop them off. But even if you can't do that, just a little human contact on the phone, a little light conversation, and the chance to ask, how are you doing, might make a real difference in the lives of some folks. If you are a member of the Blue Ash congregation and you're not certain who you might fruitfully spend some time chatting with on the phone, you can give us a call and we'll help you find some folks. But even if you're not part of this congregation, you can probably think of neighbors or elderly friends or family members who would really love to hear from you. Maybe they'd love to hear from you today. So a happy St. Patrick's Day to you. I hope I will see you next Wednesday for another brief, and I hope uplifting message from Mike. And in the meantime, be safe, be careful, be well, and be faithful. Thanks for tuning in.